A strange statistic. In 2017, a research group from the Stanford Behavioral Design Lab led by Dr. B.J. Fogg noticed something unusual. Some individuals dramatically redesign their lives every 7 to 10 years. New city, new career, new social circle. And strangely, they often become more psychologically resilient, not less. So why do some people feel an almost biological urge to burn down their own life and rebuild it from scratch? Most people see restarting your life as failure. They assume something must have gone wrong. Maybe the person couldn't commit. Maybe they were running away from problems. But psychology research suggests something very different. Some people are actually wired to reinvent themselves. And the more they do it, the stronger their adaptability becomes. I used to believe stability was the ultimate goal. Stay in one place, build one career, stick to one version of yourself. But the more I looked into psychology, the more I realized something surprising. For certain personalities, too much stability can actually feel like a trap. Psychologists studying personality traits discovered something called openness to experience. Researchers Paul Costa and Robert McCrae found that people high in this trait constantly search for new ideas, new environments, and new challenges. Their brain doesn't just enjoy change, it needs it. When their life becomes too predictable, their motivation slowly fades. What feels comfortable to most people can feel suffocating to them. Think about the brain like a muscle. When you repeat the same routine every day, your brain becomes efficient. It learns shortcuts. It stops wasting energy. But efficiency has a hidden downside. Your brain also stops noticing things. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Human Development found that long-term routine can reduce cognitive stimulation. In simple terms, your brain stops learning as much. Life becomes automatic. You wake up, go to work, come home, repeat. At first, this feels stable, but after years, many people feel something they can't quite explain. A strange restlessness, a quiet feeling that life has become smaller. I've experienced that feeling myself. Everything in my life looked fine from the outside, but internally, I felt like my curiosity was shrinking, like my brain was stuck on autopilot. And that's when I started understanding why some people reset their lives completely. For them, change isn't chaos, it's oxygen. Neuroscientist David Eagleman explains that novelty is one of the brain's strongest triggers for dopamine. New experiences wake up the brain. They reactivate curiosity. They make life feel vivid again. This is why moving somewhere new can suddenly make everyday life feel exciting again. Different streets, different people, different problems to solve. Your brain wakes up because it has to. Psychologist Herminia Ibarra studied professionals who reinvented their careers. Her research revealed something surprising. People rarely discover their true identity. Instead, they experiment their way into it. They try different roles, different environments, different lifestyles. Slowly, they learn which version of themselves feels most authentic. Identity, in other words, isn't fixed. It's flexible. Think of it like software. For years, it runs perfectly, but eventually, the system slows down. Old habits pile up, new ideas stop loading, and sometimes the only way to fix it is a complete reinstall. History is full of people who rebuilt their identity more than once. Steve Jobs is one of the most famous examples. First, he built Apple as a young founder. Then, he was forced out of the company. Most people would have seen that as the end of their story, but Jobs started over. He built Next. He helped transform Pixar. And eventually, he returned to Apple with a completely new vision. Each phase of his life forced him to think differently. Each phase rebuilt his mindset. Psychologist Carol Dweck from Stanford calls this way of thinking a growth mindset. People with this mindset believe abilities and identity can evolve. They don't see change as proof that they failed. They see it as proof that they are still growing. That belief changes how they experience risk. Most people avoid uncertainty. Their brain treats uncertainty as danger. But people who repeatedly restart their lives slowly build tolerance for it. Every time they survive a big change, their brain learns something important. Uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it is survivable. I remember the first time I made a major life change. Everything felt unfamiliar. New routines, new people, new expectations. At first, it felt overwhelming, but after a while, something shifted. I realized I could adapt faster than I thought, and that realization changes how you see the future. You stop fearing change as much because you've already survived it before. Research from the University of Chicago suggests that major life transitions can increase something called cognitive flexibility. That means the brain becomes better at switching strategies, better at solving unfamiliar problems, better at adapting to new environments. In other words, big life changes can actually train your brain. Every reset forces you to learn new systems, new social rules, new ways of thinking. Your brain becomes stronger because it has to. But here's the twist most people never consider. The real risk might not be changing your life too often. The real risk might be never changing it at all. Psychologist Daniel Gilbert from Harvard discovered something called the end of history illusion. People tend to believe the person they are today is the final version of themselves. They think their personality is finished. Their preferences are permanent. Their future self will look almost identical to the present one. But that belief turns out to be wrong. Our identity keeps evolving for decades. Our goals shift. Our interests change. Our values slowly transform. The problem is many people try to freeze their identity in place. They lock themselves into one career, one lifestyle, one version of who they believe they are supposed to be. At first, that stability feels safe, but over time, it can create pressure because internally, people keep changing, and eventually, that pressure shows up in unexpected ways. Sometimes it appears as restlessness, sometimes burnout, sometimes what people call a midlife crisis. But in many cases, it's simply the mind demanding growth. The people who reset their lives more often avoid this trap. They adjust earlier, they experiment sooner, they rebuild before the pressure becomes overwhelming. They understand something many people forget. Identity is not something you discover once. It's something you continue designing. Life is not a fixed structure. It's more like a long construction project. And every few years, some people look around and decide something important. This version of life has taken me as far as it can. So they start again, not because they are lost, but because they are evolving. And sometimes the most intelligent move a person can make is to quietly begin again.